They say money makes the world go round. But the richest people on earth don't trade in money, at least, not the kind you think. For billionaires, currency isn't paper. It isn't digital. It isn't even visible. It's influence. It's access. It's control. Welcome to the world's most exclusive economy, where the real currency is invisible, unregulated, and priceless. It doesn't circulate through banks. It doesn't print on paper. It doesn't flash on digital wallets or stock tickers. It flows quietly through conversations, contracts, and code, the bloodstream of power itself. Let's start with a simple truth: billionaires don't store wealth, they move it. Cash loses value. Gold is bulky. Crypto is traceable. But influence? That compounds. They've mastered the art of alchemy, converting money into power and power back into money, over and over again. Each conversion leaves no trace, no tax, and no audit trail. It's an endless feedback loop hidden in plain sight, functioning above the markets that everyone else depends on. Their true wealth circulates through what economists call shadow capital, vast networks of offshore trusts, private equity holdings, anonymous shell corporations, and complex debt instruments designed to obscure origin and ownership. These structures don't exist to evade law, they exist to rewrite it. But there's something even more powerful than capital, something that fuels every strategic move they make: information. Information is the billionaire's secret currency. It's the most valuable asset money can buy, and ironically, it's the only thing that multiplies when shared with the right people. Every trade, every acquisition, every quiet political donation begins with knowledge that others don't yet possess. To the public market, timing is everything. But in the invisible economy, information asymmetry, knowing what will happen before the rest of the world, is the ultimate gold mine. They invest not merely in companies, but in data streams. Private AI labs that analyze global consumer behavior. Satellite constellations that track shipping routes and agricultural cycles. Behavioral research firms that study the psychology of spending and voting. Even genetic databases, not because they want to cure disease, but because understanding population health patterns means understanding the future of entire industries. They're not buying products, they're buying foresight. When you can predict what the world will value tomorrow, you never have to gamble. You simply position yourself today. That's how markets are quietly moved before the news breaks, how entire sectors rise or fall long before the public even suspects. For billionaires, information isn't power, it's insulation. But influence itself functions as a kind of currency. In the visible world, people trade money for goods and services. In the invisible world, the elite trade favors for access. A seat at a foundation dinner can unlock billions in funding. A single private conversation at a global forum can redirect national policies. A well-timed donation can buy silence, or cooperation, or both. These exchanges are never documented, never taxed, never regulated, yet they move more power than most national budgets combined. It's called relationship capital. Every introduction, every handshake, every whispered promise becomes a transaction. The most valuable assets in this world aren't stocks or real estate, they're people. Who you can call. Who will answer. Who owes you. This is the network effect of extreme wealth. Relationships themselves become compounding assets, and the interest they earn is influence. Then comes debt, perhaps the most misunderstood form of invisible currency. To the average person, debt feels like a trap, a chain to be broken. But to billionaires, it's a tool, the cleanest, smartest financial instrument ever created. They don't sell assets for liquidity, they borrow against them. Why sell a stock and pay capital gains tax when you can use it as collateral and take out a loan instead? Borrowing isn't taxable. And when you die, that debt vanishes into estate loopholes. It's a cycle known among the elite as buy, borrow, die. By appreciating assets. Borrow against them to fund your lifestyle. Then die, and pass it all on, tax-free. A family office can rinse and repeat that formula for centuries. Generational wealth isn't built by earning more, it's built by avoiding the losses that ordinary systems enforce. The system isn't broken. It's functioning exactly as intended, just not for you. Access is another hidden pillar. Ordinary people see laws as limits. Billionaires see them as negotiable architecture, frameworks that can be bent, reinterpreted, or rewritten entirely. They move money through jurisdictions like chess players shifting pieces across the board. When one country tightens its rules, another opens its doors. When taxes rise, capital sails offshore, to the Cayman Islands, Luxembourg, Singapore, Monaco, and other modern fortresses of privacy. These aren't just tax havens, they're power havens. Gateways into a world where accountability fades and influence begins. While the public debates wages and inflation, the elite are busy minting a currency no one else can touch, the power to rewrite the rules themselves. And here's where the illusion deepens. In the visible economy, we're taught that money equals value. But in the invisible economy, they understand something much more profound: value equals control. That's why billionaires no longer compete for cash, they compete for narrative. Controlling the story shapes demand. Controlling demand shapes markets. Controlling markets shapes reality itself. That's why they buy not just businesses, but media outlets, universities, and think tanks. They fund documentaries, sponsor research, endow chairs, and create charities that subtly influence public perception. They don't just want to be seen as wealthy, they want to be perceived as necessary. And once society sees their influence as indispensable, regulation becomes politically impossible. The greatest currency of all isn't gold, cash, or crypto. It's trust. And whoever owns trust, owns everything that follows. Still think this sounds like fiction? Let's trace it with numbers. In the last decade, the combined wealth of the world's top 500 billionaires grew by over 60%. Global wages barely moved 5%. The pandemic, which crippled small businesses and middle-class savings, added trillions to elite fortunes. How? Because while the public economy runs on labor, the invisible economy runs on leverage. When you buy something, your transaction ends. When they buy something, their control begins. They own the supply chains, the logistics networks, the patents, the server farms, the data pipelines. You buy the product, they own the ecosystem. You pay once, they get paid forever. They don't just make money from what you buy. They make money from how you decide to buy it. There's also the currency of attention. In a world driven by data, your focus is measurable wealth. Every second you spend on a screen is another data point, another piece of human behavior that can be monetized, predicted, and resold. Platforms like Meta, YouTube, X, and TikTok don't sell content. They sell you. Your curiosity becomes capital. Your habits become predictive signals. Your time becomes profit. And the infrastructure of that trade, the servers, ad networks, and analytics tools, is owned by a handful of billionaire investors. They've turned human behavior into an extractive industry. You think you're the customer, but you're actually the raw material. You're not just part of the economy, you are the economy. When billionaires trade these invisible currencies among themselves, the results are seismic. They consolidate control and quietly rewrite how wealth itself functions. A billionaire can lose billions on paper during a market crash, yet somehow emerge richer afterward. Because wealth isn't about money, it's about positioning. Ownership of assets. Access to policymakers. Control over systems. They're playing a game most people don't even know exists, let alone understand the rules. In that game, traditional money is obsolete. The new currencies are influence, data, access, and time. And they move faster than any dollar ever could. But here's the haunting part. Every new technology we celebrate, AI, crypto, biotech, quantum computing, eventually becomes another instrument in this symphony of control. Each innovation widens the invisible gap between control and participation. Between the architects and the users. Between those who build the system and those who are built by it. The public internet runs on attention. The billionaire internet runs on ownership. And the chasm between those two realities is where true power hides. The invisible economy of billionaires isn't driven by greed. It's driven by insulation, by the desire to create a world so fortified that it cannot collapse, because it doesn't depend on cash flow. It depends on control flow. They don't need to own everything. They only need to own what everything depends on. If you control the rails, you don't need to own the train. If you control the cloud, you don't need to own the content. If you control the law, you don't need to obey it. Their real currency isn't stored in banks, vaults, or ledgers. It's woven into the infrastructure of the world, information, access, and decisions made long before the rest of us even see the price tag. The richest people in the world aren't rich because of what they have. They're rich because of what they know. They've turned foresight into fortune and secrecy into sustainability. So the next time someone says, "Money makes the world go round," remember this. Money is just the shadow. The real economy spins in silence, powered by currencies that can't be printed, counted, or taxed. It's the economy of power, a hidden empire of influence, trust, and data. An economy where wealth doesn't shout, it whispers. And somewhere, far from headlines and hashtags, the billionaires keep trading, in secrets, in access, in belief. Because at the highest levels of human civilization, the ultimate currency isn't wealth. It's control. And those who master that invisible exchange don't just shape markets, they shape the very meaning of reality itself.